Hello, and welcome to The Content Bite, a podcast for freelancers who use their words to make money. I'm Rachel Smith, a freelance journalist, copywriter, and content producer. I'm also the founder of Rachel's List, a jobs board and community for Australian writers and other creatives.
And I'm Lynne Testoni. I'm a journalist and content writer as well. Rachel and I are your weekly co-hosts, and every week we bring you all kinds of tips, tricks, and some fabulous guests to help you make the most of your freelance business. So what we have learned since doing this podcast is that successful freelancers have a business mindset and need to manage their finances. It sounds boring, but it's actually true, isn't it?
Actually not that boring. Like if you're with the right program, that is.
True. And the trouble with most financial software is that it's built for larger businesses, not sole trader businesses like us. So you often end up paying for lots of unnecessary features you never use, such as payroll. But our sponsor Rounded has software designed for freelancers, and it's super easy.
So easy and actually not boring. It actually becomes quite fun to reconcile.
The gamification, as you say.
Yeah, for sure. So good. Well, Rounded is really an all-in-one tool, and as part of the sponsorship, we've organised a saving of another 20% on any annual subscription. If you're a gold member of Rachel's List, that can really save you a chunk of change every year.
Absolutely. So good. Hi, Rachel. It's a great topic this week.
Yes.
It's all about being paid well and not being underpaid. And it's certainly a topic close to my heart and an important lesson for freelancers, particularly at the beginning, do you think?
Yeah, I think for people who are starting out, it's definitely something that they think about and talk about a lot. And we see that in the Gold Group. But also we see it in freelancers who are wanting to scale up. And we saw that at the summit this year. And we have a guest on today who I've known for eons. She's a hugely successful freelancer, and she's posted on Rachel's List too before, looking for other freelancers. So I'm so keen to hear her talk about making decent money, as well as loads of other stuff that we're going to talk to her about, because she wears many hats.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I think that's what she says on her website about wearing many hats.
Oh, right, of course. So why don't you introduce her and we'll get her into the hot seat.
I'd love to. So Sue White is a freelance journalist, writer, media trainer, and communications consultant. There you are. There's all the hats. She's been published in many prestigious publications, including the ABC, SBS Online, Vogue, the Sydney Morning Herald, and The Age, where she does a column, which we're going to chat about. She also does copywriting and communications consulting for larger organisations, and she's been running a media training business with fellow journalist Ginger Gorman since 2017. Welcome, Sue.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Lovely to be here.
Well, you've worked for some great publications there. I know, speaking to freelancers, a lot of them are the bucket list ones. Where did you start in journalism and why did you transition to freelancing?
You know, when I think about how I became a freelancer, it makes me realise that I really am a freelancer at heart, because I actually started freelancing in university when I was doing a professional writing course and we had to write a feature article as an assignment. And I was like, well, if I'm going to write it as an assignment, I may as well try and make some money out of it.
Yes.
So I went and found like a local designer who I thought had a really good story and interviewed him really just on spec. You know, I hadn't sold the story or anything, and then sold it into the Canberra Times, which is where I was living. And then I went on to freelance for the Canberra Times throughout university, actually.
Wow.
So it really gave me a good start. And I didn't end up in journalism straight away. I went to and did communications for about a decade, but after about a decade, I was like, oh, I just want to do more writing and I want different challenges. So I started freelancing when I was about 30, I guess. Yeah, even though actually I really started when I was 19.
Yeah. Oh, that's a cool story. I am a huge fan of your work. I really love your 2 minutes with in the Herald in the careers section. And, you know, obviously that's a column. It's a real bucket list ambition for many freelancers. So how did you get that? And you're obviously still doing it, aren't you?
Yeah, look, those columns are changing quite frequently at the moment. And next year we're going to phase out to do something different. You have to read all the back issues, right?
Yeah.
But I think, yeah, look, I've done heaps of columns over the years, and I know from when I've been coaching freelancers, which I used to do a lot of, like everyone wants to do a column, but I think the advice I always have is that first you've just got to make your editor happy with one-off pieces. Like they're never going to go for a column from an untested entity unless you've got some super big name and maybe you're known for something that is, I don't know, a blog that's so massive that they know you're going to produce regular content. Maybe, but really for 99.9% of us, an editor just needs to see you deliver.
Yeah.
And I think one of the reasons I've been really successful as a freelancer is I just never miss a deadline. I follow the brief, I cross-check the brief, and I don't miss the deadline. Like I file early most of the time, I'm a big deadline nerd. And it's just these really boring basics of basically being a professional and treating your freelancing as a business. And I've just done that since day one. But I did, so to answer your original question about how I got the columns originally was I nagged my regular editor once. Was writing regularly for, it was the career section. It was then the Sydney Morning Herald. Now it's both that and the Age. And I just kept saying sort of every 4 or 5 months, got any columns going? Got any columns going? And this editor was pretty tough in general. And he was like, nah, but thanks for asking. One line back. And then eventually, after about 2 years of me doing that, he said, yep, how about this one? So then I delivered on that and then kept going. And look, at various points, I've had 3 or 4 columns for even one section. But something I think people don't think about when they're aspiring to have a column is actually regular work is just as good as a column. Like a lot of the regular work I've had, I think back to when I did, say, 50% of my work was environment writing, and there was some really great niche magazines, and I would write 3 or 4 stories every edition, and they're always in the same section. So one was a well-being one was a feature, one was a little tips-based piece, and they're essentially columns, but they're just regular work. So I think those are just as good because all the work that's coming in is work that you don't have to spend time pitching for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's the dream. That's the regularity and the consistency. That's the key thing, isn't it?
It helps you too because there's only so much time in the day, which we can talk about when we talk about money, but also in terms of for your brain and your idea muscle. Like you can't be coming up with ideas for architecture, food, design, careers, history. Like you kind of have to have some sort of focus. So for me, I tend to find if I have 3 or 4 maximum focuses, so I might have had well-being and travel and environment and careers, and actually those 4 have kind of waxed and waned over decades now, sometimes more of one or the other. And it means that when I see something out in the world, I know immediately whether to pay attention to it or just to let it go and not take up valuable brain space. So columns help you allocate your brain space and your focus to things that are going to pay the bills.
Are there some favourite stories from some of the columns you've done?
Oh gosh, I really liked when I used to do a lot of productivity columns for the Herald back in the day. And I used to just try all the things that I was like, how can this make me better? So I was like trying the Pomodoro, the 20-minute bursts of work, or do a week of I'm going to do the hardest task first, or I would just make up all these kind of ideas. The stand-up desk that I still have today and the treadmill desk that I have today are results of working on productivity. Like, can I get fit while I work? So all those little kind of life hacks and business hacks I've always just found quite entertaining. So they probably stand out in terms of fun.
Oh, that's good. You talked a little bit about getting ideas, and you do probably, like all of us, get them from everywhere. Do you have a system or a process to keep track of them all?
I've got systems for everything, Lynne.
Oh, that's good.
I think we have a question about that down the track.
Right. Yeah, and look, my systems do change over time, but I usually have systems for sort of keeping my ideas and it will change. But I think with a column and regular pieces, it is hard at first. Like you do have to allocate some time at first to sort of set up a system and set up a flow and set up a flow of information and ideas. So for me, I mean, because I've been writing career stories for so long, when I'm doing a column on that, well, people are pitching me ideas all the time.
Yeah.
And they have been for years. But when those ideas are low or I'm not loving all the ideas that come in, I have a list, probably, I don't know, 200 or 300 PR kind of comms people on it that I just have kept when people have pitched me. And I go out and say, hey, I need stories and here's exactly what I need. I'm very prescriptive. Like all the comms people on my list often comment, they're like, wow, you've just given us such a great brief. It's a system, I guess. So I actually go, here is exactly what I want. Like I need stories for 2 minutes with. It has to be this kind of person from this location. I want to know X, Y, Z. You have to tell me, can you give me a photo? Like all the things I know I'm going to need, I make people tell me up front in the pitch, and I spend time making a brief, and then I send that out with my kind of call outs. And then if people don't answer according to my brief, well, then I can just go back and go, look at the brief and give me more detail, and I'm happy to give you an answer. Or I can actually just get these really great answers. So I'm always trying to look at ways, from everything from how I get my ideas to, how I'm working, to how can a system kind of save me time and save me energy and brain space.
Yeah, makes sense.
That's a great one. Yeah, I know we've talked a little bit about, you badgered your editor and went back and forth asking for the column and that sort of thing. What's your strategy when editors come and go, as they do? And sometimes that can be the end of a really good, lucrative gig that you had because they want to put their people in. Has that happened to you, and how do you manage it?
Oh yeah, it's all happened. And it used to really, I used to be gutted when it would happen. I'd be like, no, I've got this great relationship with this person. But then what I realized was that a lot of the time, yes, some of the time you lose the gig and that's frustrating. But a lot of the time, particularly when editors would leave and move to another publication, they would then take me with them to the new publication, and they would give me a good rap to the new editor. So I would still keep the new editor, and then I would have them at their new place. So I don't kind of double my
That's
wins.
the best case scenario if it happens.
That has happened multiple times to me, and I was like, this is awesome. But definitely what would happen then with my original gig, the new editor, look, not all the time. I've had some amazing experiences at the Herald. I think I'm on to editor 9 or 10 now. So I just outlast them all. Like, and it got to the point where they were passing on my name, and the new editor would call me and say, I've just taken on this role, and so says, like, give you the pick of what there is. So I was in this really amazing position from just delivering week in, week out to deadline, to brief for multiple people. But yeah, what usually happens though still is it's because you're building up a relationship of trust. So you do start again still in terms of trust. So maybe you might have had, maybe even if you're keeping this new editor, maybe you had 3 stories every edition and now you're only getting 1, until you can really connect with them and they can see, oh, I actually really like how they think, or I like all their ideas, or maybe you are just going to only end up with 1, or maybe none. Like, I mean, I've actually had editors that I've stopped working with, like, because they've just driven me up the wall. Like, so that took me a while to get confident enough to do that. But again, I think you just got to look after yourself as a freelancer. No one else is going to do it for you. You've got to go, is this banging my head against the wall worth my time? Not really. Like, and sometimes you just don't click with people, they don't click with your writing, or you just for some reason don't understand what they're asking you. Eventually I will just move on.
Well, we talked a bit earlier where you mentioned that you were in comms for many years and then you decided, no, I want to do more writing. So you kind of moved more into journalism. But was there a point at which you thought, well, actually, I'm going to need to add copy and content to that mix? And was that a really strategic move, to hit your earning targets?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I'm laughing because my 10-year-old son, who just came and bought me a cup of tea, he was the reason I decided, oh, I think I need to earn a bit more income, because I had him as a sole parent doing IVF. So I needed to pay for IVF. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going really well freelancing, but if I really want to up the income, I was just doing journalism, sorry, not freelancing, but just doing journalism. And I was like, if I really want to up the money, I think I need to go back to some more consulting work and communications work. So I'd had a couple of clients that had just sort of followed me every job they'd moved to. They'd ring and go, do you want to do any writing for us? And I'd be like, no, I'm just doing journalism, no. And then and really just after I had made that decision, this person called and said, do you want to do some work? And I was like, yes. And she's like, what? You have said no to me for the last 4.5 years. I was like,
Oh, wow.
I'm so sorry. But yes, I'd like to now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that was kind of how I got back into it. It has really suited me to do both since then, because the world of journalism has obviously really changed in the last 10 to 15 years. I've been doing it, oh gosh, over 20 now, I reckon. So, when I started, really, if you're being serious about freelancing, you would only really do journalism, and you wouldn't do any other kind of copywriting work. And I certainly would have looked down on myself if I was doing that. But that environment has just completely changed. And I don't think I know anyone now who doesn't try and straddle both.
Yeah.
And I think there's really good strategic reasons actually to straddle both. Yeah, so there's pros and cons, but yeah, that's the story. That's what happened.
Cool.
Interesting.
Tell us a bit about the copywriting and content work you do. What sort of projects do you take on?
Look, most clients want my interviewing skills. I guess if you look at the skill that people sitting in an organization maybe don't have, that we as writers tend to have, it's probably your interviewing skills or your ability to see the story, to see an angle in something. And sometimes you might be seeing an angle in something that's quite thin material, and you have to sort of go, what makes this interesting or different? And as a journo, you are trained to really think about what's interesting or different about this. And even just to ask those questions that they're not normally thinking of asking themselves in-house.
Yeah.
So I think those are probably the two base skills that I'm hired for. The actual outputs of what it looks like is really very similar to what you do as a journalist, feature articles that look like a case study, but that might be a case study on, I don't know, the work of a foundation, or it could be, I don't know, case studies on different projects that a company's done. The kind of copy, I've had a couple of really interesting projects lately where I've done some interpretation plan writing. So like writing on a nature walk that I've been really enjoying doing for a council client. And that's been really nice. It's been a sort of different type of writing, more storytelling and a bit evocative to bring people really into the space. So that's been lovely. And Ginger, my business partner in Media Bootcamp, and I often do co-writing. So we've done some really interesting co-written projects for Media Bootcamp too. So
that's
it all
interesting.
changes.
Interesting. Well, talk to us a little bit about, your lead generation and how you find copywriting clients. Do you have different ways that you do that? And I know you've also worked in-house at different times, which can be a strategy as well.
Yeah, look, my best strategy, I think, is to keep clients happy, and then they become repeat clients, really.
Yeah.
If I look at my clients that I have at the moment, they're all repeat clients, and I've been working for all of them for, I don't know, the shortest would probably be 3 or 4 years, probably. And they might only come back to me for a specific project every year, but I can see that I'm their regular person. They're happy with the work. They're happy with the pricing. Great. They'll just come back. So I think building up a list of repeat clients is gold. That's kind of the column experience of copywriting. But I do think, I kind of think clients only come to me when they need a problem solved. So I'm not that proactive, to be honest. I'm too busy to be marketing. I've never really loved marketing myself. I just kind of do it because I have to. And I don't really do a lot on socials, which is because I've consciously decided that's not where I want to spend my time, and that I have to be liking what I'm doing. I've kind of really take the view that if I'm going to be self-employed, there has to be lots of benefits. And one of the benefits is if I really don't want to do something, don't make it a big focus of my week. So yeah, I just try and keep my regular clients happy. I get a lot of clients through word of mouth. I do overflow work for other journos. The Gold group is really good for that, Rachel. But I have my own networks too, where we pass clients to each other and have done for years, or we kind of babysit each other's clients if someone's busy for a while and there's work coming up. We'll say, oh, do you want to do this? And you know that you're going to get your client back at the end because it's a trusted friend or colleague. So that has been really good. When I've worked in-house, actually often then people have hired me for consulting when I leave. So that's worked out quite well as well.
Yeah, it's a nice strategy, that one.
And it keeps you visible, doesn't it? If you're in-house, suddenly it's like, oh, okay, you're not suddenly, you can kind of pick up clients or meet people and say, hey, if you ever need anything, you're suddenly in front of mind.
They remember that you're there. Although most of my work is pretty anonymous, I would have to say, because we can talk about this as one of my strategies, but I very much want to work from my home office and just be here.
Same.
I
just will not even entertain anything that involves me going into an office.
No,
but I know some people love it. It's really like horses for courses.
Some people do love it, but look, I have worked from home for so long. It's over 20 years. It's just I don't want to be in someone's office. It's so unproductive and it's such a waste of my time. And I just don't see the value for them even, really.
Is once you were talking about developing a culture of trust and in that relationship, and I guess working from home, that's part of that trust equation, isn't it?
Well, also you just want clients that actually trust that, they're going to get a good product and they actually don't need to micromanage you or see you. Yeah,
I think so. And look, for me, one of the things I think people are hiring when they're hiring me, because I'm definitely not the cheapest person you can hire, absolutely not, and I'm quite happy about that, is they're just hiring that it's going to get done. They're actually hiring the fact that I've got all this experience and I can pretty much solve the problem for them. And that's really been my whole attitude from being a freelance journo to doing copywriting. I'm like, you only need me because you have a problem. Your problem is 600 words that you need to fill on this page, or you need this, this page in your annual report, this speech from your CEO to sound really good and really interesting. And I need to be able to solve that without causing you extra work, or what's the point in you hiring me? So I think because I come into it with that confidence, I guess, clients who want to work with me are happy to usually to let me just kind of go about it.
I know you're a fan of retainers. You've just on your website it said you've launched a new retainer set of packages. They're great for regular cash flow. So what do you like about them and how do you set them up?
Yeah, it's interesting, Lynne, because I was thinking about that. I was looking at my website the other day going, do I love retainers anymore? I think I have a love-hate relationship with them now.
Yes.
Because I'm actually I'm really a project-based person. Like, I like to come in, be absorbed in something, have an outcome, and then off I go to the next thing. Like that. And I suspect that most of us are similar because it's a really good fit if you're a writer or a freelancer because you're doing so many different things. So look, what I like about it is regular work, and that means you don't have to then go through the process of doing the pitching or finding new work, or you kind of have a vague idea of what income is coming in.
Mm.
One of the things I've done that's worked equally well over the years, though, is just offer clients a block of hours.
Yeah.
So if they've got a project that I can't, for whatever reason, price, or sometime maybe I think they're going to need lots of hand holding in one piece of the work or something, then I'll just say, look, I think it's going to be about X hours. I can sell you a block of hours for this amount. But in my head, honestly, Lynn, almost everything I just equate to a project price. Like, so even if I'm giving you a word rate or a day rate, which I'll do when clients want it, in my head, I just go, that project's worth $5,000 to me. That's the price. And whether I tell you that's X days or not, I don't sort of worry too much about that. I just kind of know in my head how long I think it's going to take and how much of a pain or not it's going to be.
Yeah.
And I factor all that in
Yeah.
to my pricing. Sometimes with retainers, then to finish that off, I have found, I've got one at the moment, that I've got clients who like to put all their money in before end of financial year. So that's a really good time to get lots of work the last few months of the financial year because everyone's got money to spend. But then sometimes the work isn't done until way into the new financial year. And I dislike that side of it. If they're just paying me every week or every month, that's great. But I am wrapping one project at the moment. There was a very large chunk of money and the work had to be all spread out into this financial year, and that's killing me because I don't want to have been paid already. I would rather
Yeah.
later. That's a
Yeah.
motivator. I don't want to be
It's
paid.
really interesting. Interesting what you say about retainers, because I've got one retainer client at the moment. And when I got them, I'm like you, I'm very much a project-based person. That's how I like to work. So it was such an adjustment being on a team, being like knowing I had to be somewhere for this Monday meeting, knowing that they had certain hours that they were locking me in for. It was a massive mental adjustment for me and I wasn't happy for the first couple of months. And then I went, actually, this is really cool. They're a really lovely team. It's only a certain amount of hours every week. I'm getting paid like a decent rate. And I got into it. But I found that adjustment really
Bit
tricky.
of a mind shift.
Yeah.
It is a mind shift that people expecting you to be available at a certain time when you're having so much freedom.
Yeah.
Time. I do have a kind of best of both worlds scenario with a colleague that I do a lot of work for her storytelling business, and she's got quite big corporate clients, and I've worked with her off and on for a few years. And so literally she just says, what's your availability next week? And I go, you can have any of these slots. And then she either blocks them in or doesn't. And I just charge her on I do actually, she's the one person I am tracking my time for, but it's on a good consulting rate. And then I just kind of bill her every time it gets to a certain amount. So that's probably a good example of a bit more of an informal retainer. But again, it came through working on projects together that were much more concrete and then built that relationship of trust so that now I don't even have to know what the meeting's about, really. I just go in and I just do whatever needs to happen at the time. So it becomes very flexible over time. And that probably is a good advantage of people getting to know you. Which they will if they're working on a retainer. They find out more skills that you probably hadn't thought to sell them in.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. True. Often you can offer different services when you're on a retainer because you can say, oh, you got me for a few more hours, or did you know I can also do video scripts or something that's just a little bit outside the original remit? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
My retainer client has like started off with, oh, you're just going to be writing like ads for Meta and maybe some, email marketing. And now they've got me rewriting all their home pages and their landing pages and everything. So it's
that's right. That's how a good retainer goes, I think, is that it evolves if they figure out, oh, this person's actually really valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, when we were arranging to have you on the pod, you mentioned that you've always been like this huge advocate for turning down low paid work. And we know you've taught freelancers how to do this. So This is a huge thing that comes up in our group all the time, especially in an unpredictable market. So tell us how to do that when perhaps work is a bit thin on the ground.
Mm. I think it's probably fair to say that my business partner will say that she's really grateful I taught her this. So like this is something I do really believe in. Like it's just so important to know your worth and to know the value that you offer your client, because there's only so many hours in the day. And there's also only so many words one human can crank out at a nice, high professional level. Like, so really, why not be making that time count? You know, I think that it's a misnomer. We think that you can start low and then they'll see your worth and then they'll suddenly be willing to pay you more. But it's
Never happens.
impossible. No, never happens. Like
No.
just impossible almost to go up. Well, you can go up, and I have successfully negotiated some pay raises, but I've also failed at negotiating plenty. So it's easy to go down. Like just quote a higher price, and most of the time you will be surprised people will take the price. And if they won't, they're not going to be scared to say, oh, sorry, that's not in my budget. And that opens the conversation. Like it's easy to go down in price, but it's very hard to go up. So my perspective has always been, why would you start on the lower rate? So I always will say the rate that I want, or I say the rate that I usually get paid. So with journalism, it's become trickier, I think, because the rates have gone down over time so significantly. And really, to get paid more as a journo, I think they like you to be bringing something extra. So they want you to be bringing an audience with you, for example. So, again, Ginger, my business partner in Media Bootcamp's a great example of this, because she's got quite large social followings. So often if she's freelancing, the editors might factor that in because they know she's really good at sharing her stories and she's really good at engaging audience. But she also loves social. She's really happy in that space. So good on her. I don't want to be doing that. I don't care if that's going to get me more money. I'll get the money some other way.
Yeah.
This is a nice segue into talking about your business with Ginger and the media training business. I'd love to know how that came about and how it works.
We were friends first, and so we started to figure out, maybe we should do some sort of project together. She was just leaving the ABC when I moved down to Canberra, and she didn't know many freelancers. So she was really keen to pick my brain on freelancing, and I was just keen for mates, basically.
Yeah.
And particularly mates who were either in media or self-employed. So we kind of met on that professional level, and then we became proper friends, which has been great. And then after a couple of years, we decided, let's start a business together. And so we tossed up a bunch of different ideas, and we realized that we were both being asked to do media trainings, and that actually together we had this really great depth of knowledge because we came from different backgrounds. Her background's much more in-house at ABC, and audio,
and broadcast,
broadcast. Whereas my background is really print and had lots of the glossies and the mainstream metropolitan. So we had really complementary skills, and we still do have very complementary skills. So that's kind of why it's worked. She does like that I deal with all the money stuff. She doesn't like dealing with the money. She's a great example of one of the many freelancers who doesn't like doing that, whereas I don't mind. I just don't take it on emotionally. It's just a factual exercise to me. And I like that she's basically a walking Rolodex. Like she just knows everyone who's everyone. Yeah, it works really well.
Oh, that sounds
And
good.
what talk us through like what you're doing as part of Media Bootcamp? Like you seem to be flying here, there, and everywhere and giving presentations a lot. Is that an accurate description?
Yes, both Ginger and my jobs and our business together is just always hard to explain because it just changes. So we've been starting to do more of the communication side of strategy work this last 12 months. So not just media training, although we still definitely do lots of media training, but we just realized a lot of clients were coming to us for media training, but they didn't have a communication strategy or a media strategy. So they not only didn't know how to talk to the media, but they also didn't really know what they were trying to deliver necessarily. So we've kind of acted as an advisory role for that, which has been really nice. We've just done a really interesting project for a government client where we've compiled all these interviews over and gone through all these historical documents to write a really long story that's going to go with a new sculpture of a beautiful Canberran who was a wonderful community advocate. So there's a project that the government's launching, and they needed to actually draw out all the storytelling about her and also to brief the artist. So we used all our journalistic skills to brief the artist who's going to spend months and months making this sculpture. So that's been a really interesting project to do together, which is not something that we would have thought we would end up doing, but we've just approached collaboratively, and we just kind of pass the job back and forward to progress when one of us has time. So I guess we approach our business in that, on one hand, yes, we do media training and communication stuff, but if there's other opportunities that we think will be better with two heads, then we just use that entity to kind of do those projects. It's been good, 7 years plus now.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Longer than most marriages.
Yes. Well,
True.
we've talked like a bit on the podcast. You keep mentioning like being really conscious of where you spend your time, which is obviously really important for all freelancers and obviously really important for you. But with all your competing priorities, how is your time actually split, say, on a typical week?
I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing. So I am able to just put things in the right part of the day and then kind of let go of them. So I think that helps. Like, I try not to have too much mental bleeding of one task into another. So really, I think rather than a weekly rhythm, my year has a real annual rhythm. So at the start of the year, so journalism tends to be really quiet over that summer period, which is nice if you want to go to the beach. And I've learned many years ago that if I want to be busy over December, January, I really need to spend October, by at least October, locking in work. So really starting to reach out to regular clients, or just kind of being a bit more aware of what opportunities are out there. Or those months will be quiet, November-ish, but December, January, certainly.
Yeah.
I learned really early on that if you want journalism work and you want to pitch to fresh editors, then the second week of January is like the best week of the year, because they're all really fresh. Their inboxes
They've had a holiday.
They've had a holiday. Like, you're pitching people in November and December and they just don't care. They just don't be there. So January, if I've wanted to fill my year with more journalism, then I go hard pitching in January. And so for my year, for the copywriting side of things, corporates aren't really doing much in January. And if you're doing anything in December, it's some big urgent thing. So I don't worry too much if that doesn't really pick up till February, even March. And then things start to get busier for me from sort of March onwards. That last 4 months of the financial year, I think if people really start to understand how corporate budgets work and realize that some people have a use it or lose it budget, it's those last 4 months of the year when there's money available for non-essential tasks. And, as essential as we probably think we are, the writing type tasks often get pushed back if there's not a budget available. So I think that, and same with training, certainly with media training, that's our busiest time, that last quarter of the year. So then I just end up being busy. So I have about 6 to 9 months of really busy, probably March till about September, October, and maybe a bit more. And then it just chills. And an editor taught me years and years ago, she had been freelancing for years, and she just said, I just work when it's busy and we just go to the movies when it's not. And so that kind of really helped me just to not panic when it's quiet.
Yeah.
But my rhythm does change, because particularly corporate clients, it's very hard, I think, to pin down their timing. Like what might seem a short time for them is a very long time for a freelancer. They say, oh, sorry, it's been bumped 6 weeks. And if you've kind of earmarked that time for that project, that's a real problem for a lot of freelancers. So the way I've always just got around that is I just say yes. If it's a client that I want to work with and it's a project I want to do, I just go, yep, sure. And they say, oh, have you got any availability in the next few weeks? And I just go, sure, every time. I'm just always like, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Or if it's really, really tight, I'll say, yes, but I absolutely would have to start by this date if there really is a real crunch. But because honestly, 9 times out of 10, if I've got 3 or 4 jobs coming in, at least half of them will be bumped. So
Wow.
I have the same thing with the corporates. Yeah. They have a different time scale. So as you say, they say, oh, we can't get it done for this week. We pushed it back to next month. And then I wait until I get the deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. It just happens all the time. So I don't stress about it. I know a lot of colleagues who go, oh, and then they're late. They said they'd have it here. And I'm just like, kind of, so what? Like, just say yes, and it just comes in when it comes in.
Yeah.
And if I have to work more for a couple of weeks, that's okay, because I'll have a couple of quiet weeks afterwards, probably.
Yeah. And sometimes you can also communicate like, oh, okay, thanks for sending me this. The delay might mean I can't get it back till Tuesday instead of the Friday before. And usually they're aware it's them.
It's usually fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So given that sort of what you've just mentioned about a lot of the corporate budget needing to be used up by the end of the financial year, would your advice to freelancers be, look, start sending, letters of introduction and reaching out and following up to corporates by sort of April, May, or even earlier?
Yeah. And look, one of the ways I have had lots of work or found lots of work is actually just by reaching out to my networks. So I'm not talking about professional networks necessarily, although that's obviously good. Just your social networks, just your friends, your family, your partners, friends, whoever it is that your relatives, and I've had really good gigs come through the most unlikely sources that way. I remember when I moved down to Canberra and I was like, oh, I think I need a couple more face-to-face clients, or clients that will be, that I can go in easily to the office just to bump things up. And I emailed out my local friends, and one friend who had been off work at this stage for maybe 6 or 7 years. So I was like, she's so not going to be connected. She gave me the connection that I then had 3 years of work with this one person. So you just don't know where that work's going to come through, but definitely you don't want to miss the boat. So I would say March, probably. February maybe is a bit early because they're not 100% ready, but early March is good. And that's probably my exception to having coffees, because I hate going to have coffees for work. Because again, I'm just like, time's money. So I'd much rather do a Zoom. But I do think if you're trying to line up longer term ongoing work, or a contract where you do a couple of days work for someone a week, then it's nice to do that face-to-face meeting to kick things off. So you can try and do that around March, I would say.
Okay, that's great advice.
I would also say, when you're talking about the financial year, I've worked for a lot of different companies, and sometimes their financial year is different. Like, one of my companies finishes the financial year at the end of March, starts in April. A lot of European countries, they do calendar year. American companies do calendar year quite often. So sometimes getting to know your corporate clients, you get to know the way they work, is really important too.
Yes, absolutely. And I've got a European client at the moment that I keep thinking, oh yeah, I guess and I do work for the Australian arm of that company as well, and I think they are on different rhythms. So
it's interesting, because you make sometimes assumptions about that too. Now, you were talking a bit before about the systems and processes. I'd love you to share some of the ones that you've got and that you feel that work for you.
Gosh, I've got so many systems.
Tell us your favourites.
My first one is probably just learn to work at the time where your brain is the best. So I will only do strategic things or first drafts of things when my brain is really fresh. So for me, that's early morning. For some people, maybe it's later in the day, but for me, that's my brain's kind of toast then. So by the afternoon, I'm really just doing kind of admin stuff, or I might do like light edit on something if it just needs a quick check. But mostly my strategic work I want to do first thing to try and prioritize that. I don't really go for coffees. So yeah, you get asked a lot as a journo, particularly, would you like to have a coffee? And really, I just want good pictures in the door. I don't really need to have coffees with like PR people. So I could honestly spend a couple of days a week just having coffees with people, but there's not really a big advantage to me to doing that. Having said that, if you're a person who really networks in a different way, maybe it's good for you. But for me, I just go, well, I'd rather just give you a really good brief of what I need actually, and see if I can use your client for a story that solves something for me and solves something for you. Because really that's why they want to have the coffee. It's not that they want to just get to know me as a person. No. I love coffees in my regular life. My social life very much geared around chai. But my work life is, I just know that takes half a day, pretty much.
Yeah, and you guard your time. You're obviously really, really good at those boundaries.
Yeah, I am good at that. And so I guess with that, I will also try not to have clients that have loads of meetings. So unless I need to go to the meetings. So if I'm kicking off a project, and it'll be different, like Rachel, you're talking about your retainer client where you go to that team meeting once a week, that's a different situation. But if I'm just doing a project for someone, for example, this walk that I've just written about, I'll offer a kickoff meeting, and there might be 3 or 4 people that are at that meeting, and I'll prepare quite a lot for the meeting. I know what I want to ask. I've done all my background research, and I'll say to my client, send me everything you can send me before the meeting so I can have a look at what you've got, and then I brief myself, and then I kind of almost do a verbal reverse brief in that meeting. And then after that, it's pretty unlikely that I will have a meeting. Mostly the rest of my projects are done by email, sometimes a really quick phone call if we need to, but I try and set that right up at the start. I kind of say, this is how I manage projects. It's the best way of managing everyone's time, but getting the information we need. And what I've found is then people go, oh, okay, great. They just kind of automatically default into thinking they're working with someone on a 8-week project. They need to meet them every week. I did have one client once that wanted regular meetings, and I said, that's fine. That'll be $200 a meeting. I haven't costed that in. And they said, oh, actually, email will be fine.
Yeah.
Great. Perfect.
So do you write that into your contracts and stuff?
What I do is usually what happens is a client will approach me and say, hey, we're just wondering about your availability to do this project. And they may or may not give me a lot of information about it. And my response is always, yes, of course I'm available. Yes, I can make that work. Here's how I would suggest we run the project. Or I usually run projects like that in this way, because sometimes I might want, my pricing might depend on, are they lining up my interviews? Have I got to interview 20 people, and are they going to do all the coordination of that, or am I? Because that's going to impact my timing. And also sometimes those things are much easier for someone in-house, because they're getting an email from someone they know rather than just, hello, it's Sue White. Like, so then I also know that might be easier. So I kind of give them back an outline and a guide of, this is how I think this project should probably run. And I will say in that, we would generally just do a kickoff meeting, and then the rest by emails or an occasional phone call if we need it. And usually 9 times out of 10, that's what happens.
Yeah. Gosh.
I'm sure I've got more systems. Let me think about one more or two more. I do think it's good as a freelancer if you can think about yourself as being a problem solver. So that sometimes helps you to only ask clients good questions, because really, if I'm just asking them questions about every little thing, I'm not really solving their problem, because I'm chewing up their time and they've come to me to sort of save time, really. So I try to solve things myself where I can, and I try to send really clear emails, even to clarify stuff, to make that form of communication work really well. So I do pay a lot of attention to making sure I have real clarity in anything I'm asking them, so that we're not kind of endlessly back forwarding, because otherwise they won't like my method of working over email. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think those kind of approaches probably have really worked for me, on top of just never being scared to ask for the money you think that you're worth for a project.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How often do you put your rates up?
I just put them up recently, and I'm not scientific about it, although I do really like looking at those kind of rate guides and seeing what everyone's getting paid. It probably depends a bit on the client too. So this year I put all my prices up recently, but because everything is going up, it seemed a good time also to do it, and everything is going up. So my
You're not an anomaly or anything. Yeah.
no, and
And
my
you've got more
subscriptions are all
expenses.
costing me more, and
Yeah.
etc. So things are costing me more.
Yeah.
So I do, but I'm just not scientific about it. I'm just very much intuitive about it, and go, oh, about this much, I reckon that client can bear.
Yeah.
And it does depend too, like the client that is a friend that I said I do consulting work, sort of retainer style. I haven't put that rate up for a couple of years, and I probably won't, because it's a fair rate, and she's really accommodating of, like, sometimes we have 6 a.m. meetings because that's when it suits us. And sometimes, so that's really helps the bigger picture of flexibility in my life. So, and it's ongoing work. So
yeah.
she won't get
that makes sense.
a higher rate.
Yeah.
She can keep her rate.
Well, I mean, I know that, you're in the freelance space. What do you think are some of the biggest challenges that freelancers are facing right now, or that you're seeing or seeing people talk about?
I do see people talk about money a lot, and I do see people undervalue their skills and compare themselves to, a content farm that's churning out a 500-word article for $30 or something. Like, my take is you don't want that work. You just don't want it. And those clients aren't the ones who are going to come to you. I think probably what's going to unfold is that clients want different things out of their writers. They want them. I've noticed in people advertising for communications people in-house, they are now saying, we want you to use AI in a smart way to do more in your job. So they actually want those people to use those tools well. So that's a real shift in terms of, I think, is going to lead to what work comes to freelancers. Maybe there will be more of the in-house person banging out a really simple draft of something and then giving it to people like us to fix, maybe.
Yeah.
Because maybe they think they're going to save money that way. It'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. I think there's definitely probably a shift, I'd say, in who wants to pay money. So again, I work with the bigger clients for a reason, because they've got budgets and they really value my 20 plus years of expertise. That's actually important to them, and they care about what you've done. Whereas the $30 story for the content mill, they don't care.
Yeah.
So I think that smart freelancers will try and seek out those clients who actually value the skills that they've got. I think we do probably have to market our skills more in this space so that people really understand the difference between a really well-crafted piece of writing or a piece of content than something that has just been thrown through Chat GPT.
Yeah.
So there's a selling job that people need to do.
Yeah.
So it's still about being confident. I think, you need you're your own product. So you just need to be confident and show clients that you understand what's changing in the space
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So that's a big shift. But freelancing has been through so many shifts since in the couple of decades I've been doing it.
Yeah.
And
Same.
and we're still here, and it's still definitely possible to make an income. I make a really good income and have for a long time, but I think without you defending your own paycheck and just guarding it, I guess, and having a few strategies to guard your time, it's much harder.
Yeah.
Interesting. Are there any sort of tech tips or sort of software that you use that you couldn't be without?
Oh, I like tech with an immediate purpose.
Not just to
Cloud
be because it's a
backup,
cool gadget. Yeah.
Yeah, I've always had cloud backup. I use SugarSync, which is like no one uses that anymore, but I love it. It just mirrors exactly how my screen looks, and everything's automatically backed up as it happens. So I've been using that for decades, or maybe a decade. I'm enjoying ClickUp at the moment, which is a Trello kind of equivalent. This is my paper list. So I've reduced my paper lists just because it did get a bit complex. I did find in the last 18 months, it's like, wow, there's actually so many balls in the air.
Yeah.
It's taking too much brain space. So I've thrown that into ClickUp. And I really like otter.ai for just recording interviews. That's getting much smarter too in terms of takeaways and summaries of transcripts, which I traditionally wouldn't care about, but now I can see, oh yeah, actually that is quite useful. So sometimes I'll go back to those summaries in my transcript just to cross-check if I've missed anything.
Yeah.
So I don't really use it to outline my story. I write the story in the same way, but then I'll go back and go, oh yeah, AI picked up on that we talked about this. I'd actually forgotten that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's been quite useful too.
Oh, cool.
Oh my gosh, Sue, we could talk to you all day. This has been brilliant.
So
Thank
valuable.
you. Thank you so much for coming on the pod, and tell our listeners where they can find out more about you. Probably not social media because you're not there.
No, not social media. I'm there, but it's reluctant. Yes, unless you're on my personal page. Look, suewhite.com.au is always an easy place to find me, and I tend to link off to all the other hats from there, so you can find me there.
Fabulous.
Fantastic. We'll definitely put a link to that in the show notes. So
Yes.
Thank you. Lovely to
thank
chat
you,
to you.
Sue, for being our guest. So it brings us to the end of the show. So thanks to everyone listening and to Sue for joining us. So don't forget to leave a rating and review on the platform where you find your podcasts, and we'll see you again next week.
We will. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks again to our wonderful sponsors, Rounded, easy accounting and invoicing software that helps freelancers run their business with confidence.
And don't forget, if you're a gold member of Rachel's List, you can check your welcome emails for an exclusive discount code on the annual subscription rate. You can also find it in the private Facebook Gold group, or just contact us at hello@rachelslist.com.au.